Good morning guys, it is 5 a.m. and we are just getting ready to leave Jetwing Kadruketa. Our stay here has been absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed it and has been very insightful, especially since paddy and rice is one of the major industries in Sri Lanka. So it's definitely a very almost knowledgeable stay while also being a very luxury experience. So I really love that, and that's what makes this property very unique for me. Today we are finally making our way to the south coast of Sri Lanka, with our first stop being the city of Tissa. Now we are passing by Lunugambehera Park, which is actually another national park in Sri Lanka, but it's one that people don't really pay too much attention to. It's actually quite beautiful and I have visited it once, but this is it right here. And this just goes to show us that there are a number of parks other than the Yala National Park. Even in the south area, you have this park as well as Kumana. But for some reason, Yala is the only one that gets most of the marketing, which is actually really detrimental to the park. And what I would really like to see is to see tourism spreading out into all of the other areas as well. Alright guys, so we have arrived at Tara Watergate, which is a lovely hotel here in Tissa, which we have worked with before actually. After cycling and filming for an entire month around the island, at this point in our journey, both Shehan and I felt like our energy levels were really dropping to an all-time low. So we decided to take some time off at the peaceful Tara Watergate Hotel in Tissa Maharama to replenish ourselves for the final leg of our journey back home. Alright, so we are back on the road and we just left Tara Watergate here in Tissa Maharama. It's a nice cool morning and it's about 6 a.m. and we are leaving to our next location, which is in Tangalle, where we will break, charge our gear. By gear I mean our bikes. And then we will head another 50 to 60 odd kilometers towards Matara. To be honest, I'm kind of excited to go south because even though I have spent a lot of time going up and down the south coast, I've never cycled by it, and it's going to be a completely different experience cycling in the south. I feel I kind of understood what to expect in the northwest, north and east coast, but the south really worries me because of the fact that it is a very small road. It's just a two single lane road that goes down. Hi, good morning. It's very busy and you have a lot of crazy bus drivers that will drive you off the road even if you're in a public vehicle. So that I feel like this is going to be our hardest in terms of safety, but that's what I'm assuming. Let's see how it really is. But one thing I'm really excited about heading down south is that there are going to be lots of really nice cafes. Hopefully all are open and we're going to be able to get a really nice cup of coffee, maybe even like a breakfast bowl or something. Things that we haven't had since a month, maybe a little bit over a month ago. So you really start to appreciate the small things that you have, the small luxuries that you have when you're on a journey like this for such a long time. We have arrived in Tangalle. That last bit of the ride was really difficult. We made the mistake of leaving and all the riding towards the end and using electric in the morning. It's not a good thing And there were some unexpected hills to climb once the electric died, and that's never fun. But the good thing about having to climb hills is that you always have to come back down, and that part always helps us cover a few kilometers. Water! Hot! Looks nice. Beach looks really nice. It's right up near the restaurant. We're really happy to have made it here. It's almost 12. It's about to get very hot, so we're gonna go in and have something cool to drink and just put our things to charge and rest for a bit. Okay, scratch that. We had to leave because that area does not have electricity until 6 p.m. and we need to charge our phones. Well, our batteries, our bike batteries mostly. So we are going to cycle another 2.5 kilometers in this afternoon sun. Alright, as you can see, we are getting back into the thick of civilization. We are getting into some really dense areas here. The traffic starting up, a lot of buses, a lot of people. The towns are located closer to each other with lesser isolated areas, and that's really what divides the north and the east from the rest of Sri Lanka. Just how underdeveloped it is and how much of a chance we have to do it right, just because of that fact that we can look at everywhere else on the island that developed haphazardly and take notes on what went well and what didn't, and really do a better job up there. At least that is what we have an opportunity for. Will it happen? I don't know. Psych! So what are my points of insight? After riding around the country for 1 month, mainly the northwest, north and the northeast. First observation comes from the coastal roads per se. The coastal roads in the north and the east and the northwest tend to be typically dry and somewhat isolated. Whereas here what I'm noticing is that there is a lot of lush green not very far away from the beach. That means once you come to land side, it is lush and it is green. And of course, being further away from the equator, if I'm not mistaken, should possibly also contribute to the fact that it is not as warm here. I mean, it is warm, but I think there's a bit of a difference in the weather because of the coverage, the tree coverage that we have. So if I had to choose between those beaches and these ones, it's going to be tough because of the fact that while I love this environment more and I think it's ideal and perfect beach weather and environment, the way that people have built up around it and the way that businesses and experiences that come around it is not ideal. In that sense, the East Coast is far more undeveloped, fresh, and just, you can find an isolated beach to yourself, which is not possible anymore here in the south. So even though it may not be the perfect beach location in my perspective, it has the most potential to give you a really unique experience. We are at a very monumental point on this trip, and that is because right behind me what you see is Dondra Head Lighthouse, and Dondra Head is the southernmost point on the island, and Point Pedro in Jaffna is the northernmost point on the island. However, we couldn't visit Point Pedro on this trip. If you want to see what that looks like, make sure you check out our Jaffna video, link is up here. But honestly, this is very, very special because of the fact that we have got here with just the power of our bodies, and then of course a little bit of help from the electric battery, not gonna lie. And we've cycled 3/4 of the way around the island now, and for us that just really feels so incredible because we left with so much of fear and doubt. But not only that, I feel like it's a very special and monumental moment because of the fact that when you cycle through the countless towns and cities and villages and outposts at a very slow pace, you have more time to look the local people who actually live in those areas in the eye, talk to them, and really digest the insights that come to you when you're cycling. There's been a lot of time on my saddle where I'm just cycling by myself. Shehan is either in front of me or behind me, and both of us have acknowledged that that time you spend is almost meditative. You are with yourself, you are thinking about everything you're experiencing and everything you're seeing, as well as the things that you aren't seeing. So it's been a very, very eye-opening journey for us. And it's something that is very precious to us, and these experiences have, I'm not exaggerating, these experiences have changed the way we see the country and changed the way we see the people of this country. And I think it's a very valuable, priceless experience that you can't buy and can only be acquired by putting in the sweat, blood and tears to a certain extent on a journey like this to really get that understanding. I definitely think that if you really want to understand Sri Lanka, the country that you call home, a trip like this, a slower paced trip, is definitely a must. Welcome guys to our humble abode here in Dondra, which is one of the towns in the Matara region. This property is really beautiful. It is called the Beacon by the Bay, and there's a very good reason for that. Come and I will show you. So this is a really beautiful property out here, and one of the really great things about the South Coast is that the villa culture has been really picking up, and so you have some of the best locations, some of the best villas that you can find on the South Coast. I think it's sometimes better than Bali, so don't always think of Bali when you're thinking of villas. Think of Sri Lanka's South Coast. And the reason why this property is called Beacon by the Bay is, I don't know if you can see it, but right there, that is the Dondra Head Lighthouse, and that is actually the southernmost point of the island of Sri Lanka. So this is a really special property for this location. You have a fantastic spot to watch the lighthouse from here. You have your very own beach here, and it's just unique in its positioning here on the coast. So definitely a very, very special place, but it's got an even more special master bedroom, which I will show you a bit later. So one of the must-try desserts or food when you're in Sri Lanka is the humble curd and treacle combination. Now the best curd and treacle is said to be found in the south coast of Sri Lanka. That's where we are right now, specifically in the Tissa, that area which used to be called Ruhunu. So we have got this curd right here from Tissa, and we're going to try it. And the interesting thing about this dessert is that it's a very humble dessert, but it has been coined by a king of Sri Lanka, supposedly, as the king of desserts. Short story for this is that he made an example of why it's called the king of desserts. He packed a room full of people, and then he walked through the room as everybody in the room kind of squished back up to give space for the king to walk to the center of the room. And then he said that is why it's called the king of desserts, because no matter how full you are, there's always space for the king. Yeah. So the treacle that's usually combined is palm sugar treacle, and some people will occasionally sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top. Now, that's not my style, but I'm going to show it to you just for reference. Cheers. So what's interesting about curd and treacle is, even though it looks very basic, and right here what you see, this clay pot is how it is traditionally served, And the best curd always comes in this pot. I think it does something to keep it fresh. But what's interesting about this dessert is that even though it's very simple, the flavors are quite complex. You have the curd, which is light and has a slightly tangy flavor, combined with the sweet but not too sweet flavor of the palm treacle sugar, and they make a fantastic match in combination. The Beacon by the Bay is one of the most luxurious villas we've seen in Sri Lanka and is a great place for a family or group outing on the south coast of the island. With 4 large and beautifully themed bedrooms, a game room, a number of common areas and a phenomenal view. This villa is for those of you that are looking to bask in the lap of luxury on the south coast of Sri Lanka. Here is a closer look at the Dondra Head Lighthouse, unique for 2 reasons. One, which I mentioned earlier, is that it is located on the southernmost point of the island. But 2, it is also one of the tallest lighthouses in Sri Lanka, as well as one of the tallest in Southeast Asia. The village that this lighthouse is located on is called Dondra. That's why this area is called Dondra Head. But Dondra is more of a colonial term. The actual name means something along the lines of Devi Nuwara, which means city of God. It's a very interesting place because it's not as much explored, but I feel like there could be something here and we would love to deep dive into Dondra. So we're getting ready to leave from our lovely accommodation here at Beacon by the Bay. It's been a really wonderful place to stay in, very beautiful. And before we leave Matara, there's one more thing that we really want to check out, which is the Matara Fort. So we're going to go and do that now. But at this point in our journey, towards the end of it, we're really crazy now. We're very daring and we are okay to leave at 1 p.m. So wish us luck as we brave the sunny weathers of the south. But we will be heading to have some quick lunch and then to the fort. We are back on the road, and this is the first time we've been on the road at 1 p.m. We usually avoid this time, but like I said, we are getting very confident. The closer we get down south and back home, this area is quite familiar to us. But also, yeah, we're just getting really okay with kind of riding in the sun and stuff. Yeah, we'll sleep in a little bit and ride in the sun. Seems like a good trade-off. So we're going to grab some lunch, and then afterwards, we are going to be checking out the Matara Fort. We're now at the Matara Fort, and this was the first fort that was built in Matara, and immediately I noticed a few things that make it different from some of the other forts that we have visited. Number 1 being that it is very small, and number 2 is that it's less of a tourist attraction right now and has a lot more practical use. I can see the courthouse as well as the pitch behind us being used by kids to play cricket. So it's still very much in use by the public, unlike some of the other forts that I have visited. This is the first fort, and it was built in the 1500s by the Dutch, and it was mainly built so that it was a main defense from anything that was coming from the sea. Unfortunately, they did overlook any attacks coming from land, which did happen during the Matara Rebellion. So with the help of the Kandyan Kingdom, the locals of the area rebelled and took over this fort. But it was only for a short while till the Dutch took it back again. And the first thing that they did once they did recover the fort was to build another fort right out on the other side of the river, the Nilwala River, called the Star Fort, and we're going to take you to see that as well. So behind me is the Star Fort, and this was built by the Dutch right after recovering the original fort as a defense mechanism for any attacks coming in from the land. It's a very unique six-pointed, very small fort that can hold up to 12 cannons and has enough space for a small garrison. But later on it was actually used as a library and now as a museum. So unfortunately we can't go in and have a look at it because you need permission to film it, but also they close at 4, not 4:30 what it says on Google, so don't make the same mistake as us. But it's a beautiful, beautiful structure that I would love to come and explore again. The highlight of our day was without a doubt meeting this police officer, who was also a subscriber to our channel and was really trying his best to get us permission to film inside the fort. So now we are on the real southern roads. Just 2 lanes and a very tiny cycling lane here, if that's what it even is. It's also the same space that people use to walk and park their bikes on. So you need to weave out of the lane once in a while to not bump into them. And sometimes you can't weave out because there is a bus coming very fast, or 2, and a couple of lorries maybe right after it. And even if you are in your lane, which I am not right now, even if you are in your lane, the buses pass by so close that there's this after wind, like a gust of wind that follows right after, that almost knocks you off the bike anyways. So we are truly in the territory of the treacherous southern roads. Alright, we have arrived at our stop in Waligama, which is W15 Waligama. Here it is, guys. Here gives you wings. Nice offer